I think that one thing that can be so life-changing is a commitment to a weekly live show. Are you going to mess up on your live stream? Yep. Are you going to start and want to deliver a great opening and stumble over your words? Absolutely. The advice today, especially with these 5 tips, is start your show and start going live. Welcome back to the Think Media podcast. I'm super fired up for this episode because we're talking all about live streaming. Now, we love live streaming on YouTube. We love multi-streaming. And today I've got Geige from Streamyard breaking down 5 tips to help you get more views, more reach, and some tactical tips to improve your live streams. And make sure to stick around until the end of the video and podcast, because Geige is also going to be breaking down a new feature that's coming to StreamYard. And I don't want to overhype it, but I am so excited for this feature. I'm going to tactically be sharing. We were talking before the recording about what it is, and I'm already like, this is exactly how we're going to use it at Think Media. So if you're ready to get more subscribers, get more views, tap into live streaming, or boost your streams, then stick around because it's going to be a power-packed episode. But Geige, welcome to the show.
Hey, Sean, thanks so much for having me on. I'm super excited to be here.
Excited for you to be here as well. You're the co-founder and CEO of Streamyard. A lot of people should know about Streamyard by now, but if you're new to the platform, what's kind of been the history and vision of the company?
Yeah, absolutely. Time has flown by, but yeah, about 3 years ago, Dan, my co-founder, and I, we wanted to make the easiest way to create professional live streams. We thought there were really, really good solutions out there for folks that were pretty technical. But 3 years ago, there really weren't very many solutions for people that there are people that had great content to share and really good ideas, but might not have been interested in things like bit rates and encoding and setting up this software. So we wanted to make something that really got out of the way and allowed people to focus on what was important, being their content. So that was sort of the start of the journey. And both of us, Dan and I, are both engineers by background. So kind of had to teach ourselves a bit about marketing and growth. And it was cool to have live streaming as a way to help grow our product. I think we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but we've actually done a show for the whole 3 years. It's a town hall we do to get insights from customers and help grow our following. But yeah, that show's been great because it's given us feedback to iterate and continue improving the product to give the best experience possible. And yeah, at the end, like you mentioned, really excited to talk about that because we're starting to branch into not just being the easiest way to create professional live streams, but the easiest way to create professional content in general. Because I think there's a ton of folks out there that need a solution, not just for live streaming, but for all kinds of content creation.
Yeah, I love that. And this new feature is going to really be a game changer. I'm convinced of that. But one of my favorite words is the easiest. You know, even as a tech guy myself, live streaming is stressful because if you're thinking about the tech, you're thinking about you want to share a screen, you want to power it up with banners or details or all this different stuff. You got enough to think about just trying to deliver your content or interview your guest. And so that's really why we've fallen in love with StreamYard at Think Media, because of ease of use, speed of implementation, ease of setting it up. Of course, a lot of practical features like being able to multi-stream, but it's an incredible product and it's cool to see it continue to evolve. But let's dive into these 5 tips and then we'll get to that announcement. But first one is increase viewer retention by sharing your screen or using multiple cameras. Why are our live streams more powerful when we don't just talk on screen, but we maybe share our screen or switch up our camera angles? And how are creators doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I'm sure you know better than anyone else, like one of the most important signals you can give to platforms like Facebook Live or YouTube Live is how long people are watching for. Because if people are watching for a long time, it's going to tell Facebook, YouTube, hey, this is good content and we should show it to more people, which is going to be really important for continuing to grow your channel. And that's not to say that if you're just on screen by yourself that you can't be entertaining. And there are people that are very successful doing that. But one easy sort of additional way you can go about it, if you aren't comfortable just being on screen all by yourself, is to use functionality like sharing your screen in multiple cameras, because it gives something else for your audience to focus on and be entertained by. It's much easier to speak to maybe a slide deck or a presentation that you're presenting versus just you on screen having to move your hands around and keep people excited about what you're talking about. So I think that utilizing that functionality of the different studio options in StreamYard, like the multiple cameras, like sharing your screen, is really important for getting people to watch getting people to watch longer. One that like I mentioned before, in terms of making StreamYard easy, this was one of the things that we were fascinated by in the overall industry that made us think that StreamYard would be an important solution to have. Is, I don't know how familiar folks are with sort of the history of different live streaming platforms, but one of the most successful ones that actually stuck around, there's been tons that have come and died, was actually Twitch. And I think one of the things that actually made Twitch successful is people were able to defer the entertainment to the game that they were playing. It was much easier for people to be entertained and watch a broadcaster if they had a game that could sort of offload the entertainment versus, if you remember Meerkat or Periscope, where it's just you on screen having to be entertaining the whole time. So with StreamYard, we wanted to replicate that. So even if you're not into video games, being able to use the screen sharing functionality or camera angles or banners or comments to help make it easier to make an entertaining live streaming and keep people watching longer.
Yeah, it's a powerful tip. And of course, average view duration and audience retention is everything on YouTube. And I think there's a principle they even say in editing that you want to change the scene every 7 seconds. I've heard every 5 seconds. That's quite often. But if you could imagine a comment's on screen, or a camera angle changes, or your slide goes, a screen share is brought on screen. And one of the things that I use constantly is, I am always doing slide decks, or not always, but a lot of times I'm teaching from slide decks. It allows me to also kind of hide behind them, kind of as you mentioned. It makes the content richer. So I'm just not out there by myself, but I can look at my notes, bring the slides up full screen. But I love how StreamYard also has like different levels where I can make the slides a little bit smaller, make myself larger. And in my mind, using just the user interface, I am just kind of trying to make a change ever so often. Can I change the scene? I mean, even as we do this video podcast, I can, pop myself up full screen. I'm managing the entire, if you're on YouTube watching it, I'm managing this by myself very easily in the back end, which again, gives you just a visual switch. Of course, layer on that multiple camera angles. The cool thing is there is a learning curve for sure, but I've never seen a software that makes it more easy than StreamYard to switch that up, and the impact is absolutely massive. But let's talk about number 2, streaming to multiple destinations. Why is it, from your perspective, that your creators and users love to not just stream one place, but to tap into the power of multi-streaming?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be super curious to hear your perspective on it, because I do think multi-streaming is a complex subject in terms of when it makes sense and when it doesn't make sense. So I think when it's appropriate, it's a very, very powerful tool. And the whole idea with StreamYard was to make it seamless and not having to be fiddling around with getting, your RTMP keys and things with different platforms and figuring out how to actually set that up. StreamYard just makes it a few clicks to connect those destinations and go live to them. But I think the power of multi-streaming really depends on your goals. So if you consider yourself to be a YouTuber and your main goal is growing your YouTube channel, I wouldn't always recommend multi-streaming, because in that sense, YouTube is kind of like your product. YouTube is what you're trying to build. And in some ways, you kind of want to be driving traffic to YouTube if that's the main thing you're trying to grow. If you're a business owner like myself, obviously StreamYard's a business and we're trying to grow that business, you want to reach your audience wherever they want to watch from. And that's where multi-streaming becomes really, really powerful. Like our goal was to grow StreamYard as a business and grow our community. And that's where I thought multi-streaming made a ton of sense, because it wasn't so much about growing one particular channel or one particular audience. It was about growing all of them and allowing people to have the easiest viewing experience.
Yeah, from my perspective, I love it. And we do ask the question right before doing a live stream, where should this stream? Is it relevant to go multiple places? I'm also further along in my creator journey, meaning we have a team now and we have built up other social media platforms over time. I would agree with the sentiment that if YouTube's your main focus, and I would argue that for many, it should be their main focus, because you don't want to spread yourself too thin. Why are you also trying to grow on Instagram or Twitch or somewhere else and Facebook? But in our case, like, we want to deliver YouTube tips effectively in multiple places. And for a lot listening to this, you may have a Facebook page, for example, or a Facebook group. What are you doing there? And one of the things that I always talk to the Think Media team about, I'm like, what is the worst that can happen if we also stream it to like my Facebook fan page, which is Sean Cannell? And they sometimes might say, well, the engagement or organic reach over there isn't very good. Only 32 people watch. And I was like, why would that be bad? I mean, that was 32 people that wouldn't have been watching otherwise. And in some cases, how effective it is can be even superior to that. So typically, the biggest use case for me personally is I'll break down two strategies. One is we do have the Coffee with Cannell show, and that's a live stream Q&A show. And what's cool about Streamyard is it pulls in questions from both places too. So as a solo manager of the stream, I'm able to answer questions. I do a little bit of teaching, and I'll typically multi-stream to YouTube, our podcast channel, and then I'll multi-stream to Facebook, my Facebook page. And then I might throw it to our Think Media group, which a lot of people don't know about. It's one of those like kind of like lesser nurtured platforms. But again, there are people there from different things we've done in the past. So that's like, and it's so easy. I'll check the 3 boxes, upload, dial in the title, dial in the description, any kind of link or call to action, upload the thumbnail, schedule the stream, and then start it. All very easy. The second cool thing that we do is we will sometimes start the stream on like YouTube and in a private group and give, if you will, free content or the free stream that's just publicly available, but we'll cut it on the back end. Not something I do personally because I'm kind of focusing on the content, but we might have someone on the team like Kyle just say, okay, and I'll end it. I'll say, so, hey, thanks for checking out this video. If you from here on out, stay on. If you're a part of, it's a sunset program now, but we had a program called Inner Circle, and then we would continue in a Facebook group after sharing the first part publicly. So I think I share all that just because there's ways to, I think outside of the box. And there's also ways where this might not be relevant today as your brand evolves. If you're listening to this, as your business evolves, as maybe the products or programs or exclusive or premium content that you create evolves, there's different ways to tap into the power of multi-streaming. And that's a couple of the ways that we do it at Think Media. Number 3 is up the value of your streams with videos, overlays, music, and visuals. Tell us a little bit about that and what some of the things you're seeing that not just StreamYard offers, but maybe some of your favorite live streams from creators in your community.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I would bucket all of those things, videos, overlays, music, and visuals into just branding overall, like how people are branding and packaging their live streams, which I think is really, really important. I think obviously nothing's more important than the content itself, but how you package the content is essentially part of the content too. And it can really help make your broadcast more memorable and help people know what to expect from you each time you go live. Like for example, some of the most successful people I see on StreamYard, the content is not necessarily drastically different, but the person's perspective on that content is really what makes them stand out from the crowd and help them foster a really strong niche and a strong community around that content. And part of creating that perspective and creating that brand and people knowing who you are and resonating with how you think is using things like videos, overlays, music to create that memorable experience. And some of the best ones I've seen, they'll often open with like an intro video. They'll maybe have some subtle background music while they actually do their show. And of course, they'll have different visual assets they'll show throughout the stream at various times.
Yeah, one of my favorite things is, for example, the Coffee with Cannell show. It has this countdown that goes 3, 2, 1, and then I encourage people to make intros short. You don't need a 10-minute, intro, but it's a cool branded intro. A lot of creators I know will sometimes use countdowns as a way to ramp up and allow people to jump on their stream before they jump on camera. That's very cool. But the other thing that I love is that you can upload videos to play, or you can play videos off your hard drive. And that can be really powerful for a couple of reasons. One, React is a format of content on YouTube. So if you want to play through a video, pause it, react to it, you certainly also could pull up a screen share, as we mentioned in number 1, click the little box in StreamYard that allows you to share audio and react to other YouTube videos or news segments or different things. That's kind of a whole genre on YouTube. But I also think about the opportunity to, you could download those videos, or of course be playing your own assets on your own hard drive that you're reacting to, playing or speaking through. But the reason I love having videos is we create our own ad spots. And of course, not just because we want to build our brand, but by an ad spot, I just mean like my book, YouTube Secrets, second edition is out. So we go 30 seconds. It's maybe me. It's pre-recorded. It's edited together. And I'm like, I'll be back in just a second. I hit the brand video, play that thing. It also gives me 30 seconds to take a sip of water, to, kind of get refreshed, remember where I am. Because once you hit live, man, it's nonstop. It's like if you're going to do an hour-long live stream, it's a marathon. Like you're doing it. Some people are going multi-hours. So if you have videos and you plan ahead, yes, they could be promotional. What could you promote? But they also, when someone might say, I don't have anything to promote. Well, what if you made a video that was just educating people about what they could expect from you on Instagram, how to connect with your community deeper? And so you might not necessarily have something to sell like a book, but you could just say, do you want to connect deeper on Instagram? I do my stories over there, and just think about things you could promote to enroll your audience more, and not just turn those into videos that you upload to StreamYard or play off your hard drive, but also just as a way to give you a break, enrich your live streams, let you recapture your energy, reset the viewer's attention. There's so many different ways you can use videos. I like overlays too. If I'm going to teach 5 points, I pre-upload the points and put them on screen. Of course, you could change up your background and your banners, music, all of these things enhance it. And it all comes back to average view duration. Like, how can we keep the viewer watching longer? And all these little spices kind of spice up the live stream recipe to make people want to stick around longer. And one of the other things you mentioned on this one, though, is that you can do record only videos to reduce editing on the back end. Break that down a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So if there's a segment of your live stream that you have prepared beforehand and that you don't want to necessarily do on the fly, you can absolutely prepare all of that beforehand on using StreamYard or whatever programs you want, and upload that before the actual broadcast, so that you can have a long segment during the stream that's actually pre-recorded. We see lots of events leveraging this feature. If there's maybe a speaker that couldn't make it there live but wanted to record their segment beforehand, they can upload that. The other aspect of this that sometimes people use is making the entire stream pre-recorded, sort of like a simulated live stream. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of it, because I think if you're doing a live stream, it's generally better for it to actually be live and to build that trust and for people to know that, hey, you're actually showing up right now for them. That being said, there are times where evergreen content makes a lot of sense. For things like webinars, I think the doing a full pre-recorded stream can work really well. And we've actually done that a little bit for StreamYard's own webinars. We do an unlisted YouTube essentially, and for certain types that happen all the time, we do actually use a pre-recorded stream and just play that. We do have people hanging out in the chat, so people know it's pre-recorded, and we answer questions. So at least it still feels pretty engaging and like not like we're just like set and forgetting it. But I do think that's a cool feature for webinars.
This right there is a huge unlock. And if you're listening, lean in for this, because this shows you an asset. You could do this in 2 different levels of complexity. Level 1 would be, okay, if I'm going to do the Coffee with Candle show and it's an hour long, I could do an interview with somebody that's maybe quick, and they break down a segment with somebody that's going to break down some new YouTube news. In my case, a quick interview with somebody else. And let's say that thing is then just pre-recorded and saved to the hard drive, or then uploaded to StreamYard. Midstream, to your point, you're enhancing something with pre-recorded content, and you don't need any fancy editing to do it. You may throw up a banner during that time. You may use StreamYard to just all in one. It's not live, it's saved now, and it's something you insert in a future live stream. It's absolutely brilliant. And then of course you could also take that file and spice it up a little bit to once again enrich your content. And for some, they also think, okay, if I'm going to do an interview show, I need to synchronize my calendar. I work weird hours. I'm trying to build up my side hustle. Again, I think about one of my favorite channels is Michael Zuber, One Rental at a Time, and in real estate investing. And one of the things, he actually doesn't live stream that much. What he does is he brings on experts and he shoots 3 videos with them at a time. And they're anywhere from like 8 to 16 minutes, no editing. And he's like, hey, we're going to talk about CPI, the consumer price index right now. We're going to talk about the Seattle housing market right now. And then that expert just delivers value for like 7, 8, 9 minutes. and then he just uploads that. Well, you could have segments. And if you're like, oh, I'd be so complex to bring on 3 experts in my niche, you could have 7-minute interviews with 3 different people, play those and narrate those through. Once you, I think the key here is understanding what tools are at your disposal. When you start understanding your tools, getting kind of different strategies and different frameworks, you can make basically hybrid shows. You're having this great live show, you're bringing in pre-recorded content, you're sharing your screen, you've got a surprise guest that nobody knows about, but they don't have to be waiting in the background the whole time. You just got a 5-minute interview with maybe a business owner or a leader. And you could say, I can't wait, I have a surprise guest today. They don't have to be there live, but it still actually has that experience and so many different level ups, more spices to make your live stream even stronger. And so number 4, though, engage with your audience. And so what are some of the ways that StreamYard gives us to engage with our audience?
Yeah, one of the most popular features we have that we talked a little bit about before is the ability to bring comments directly into the studio. So whether you're going just live on one channel or you're going live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all at the same time, all of those comments will come directly into the studio. So one great way to engage folks is to actually show their comments on screen and acknowledge them to let you know that, to let them know that you care and actually call them out specifically and answer their questions. Banners are also a really popular feature for that, for sort of also organizing your overall content, but also popping it up on screen and letting people know what you're going to talk about next. And it does go back to sort of the initial point we talked about in terms of giving YouTube and Facebook signals that, hey, this is good content that people care about. Comments are part of that. If people are commenting, engaging with it, that's going to tell Facebook and YouTube, hey, we should consider showing this to more people. So it's definitely helpful. Definitely helpful for that and increasing that engagement. I do think depending on your overall show format and sort of show strategy, different aspects of it can make sense. Because one thing you do have to consider, if you're doing a podcast or something, stopping in the middle of a podcast to answer questions all of the time might not make for great podcast content. So you do have to consider what actually makes sense for your show. So for podcast, oftentimes what I'll see that I think is really great for building a community is they treat it more of like a live recording where they'll do lots of Q&A at the start to get people excited. They'll do maybe, the 30 minutes for an hour of actually recording the podcast while it's live streaming. And at the end, they'll go back to Q&A. So they don't really sacrifice the podcast itself or the portions that they might want to repurpose, but they still get that engagement before and after the stream is over.
Very intelligent. That's a very good nuance on how you can kind of do both and knowing what's going to be maybe evergreen or repurposed or reused, and maybe front loading with Q&A. It's interesting as we are figuring out this journey of the Think Media podcast. I think we're almost to 1 million downloads on audio. I think we crossed 2.5 million views on YouTube. 2 totally different things, overlap, but kind of 2 totally different things. And one of the things we're considering is that our video podcasts are really not the same thing. Like that we may be trimming more things out of our video podcasts. Audio is sort of different. The attention span there. People are out doing chores. They're working out. They're listening to the whole thing. YouTube, you need to get straight into it. All of those nuances. Saying that though, we could certainly do a live recording of a Think Media podcast that is front loaded with questions and it has all kinds of other features, but maybe the core content is chopped out. And then what ends up being published we use Buzzsprout, and then it goes out to, Apple and everywhere else, Spotify, all the above. Well, that's just that middle as you described. And so you just know, you plan ahead of time and you can ultimately use that. I also love what you mentioned about asking questions. We use the banner feature oftentimes to pre-type and pre-prepare a question, which is one of my favorite live streaming tips. Think about your live stream ahead. Almost like the power of visualization. It's like closing your eyes, opening up a run of show, even if that's just a Google Doc, and like imagining in your mind everything that's going to happen, and then preloading that. Because if you preload your points, if you preload a question you want to ask, if you preload a video you want to play, if you preload those things, that's of course a huge key. So you're not on the fly wondering where you're going to go next. Not unlike, I have a background in ministry and church. So it's like we would have an order of service. You want to kind of have a run of show, even if it's in your mind, but even better if it's printed. So therefore, you may at a moment just hit your StreamYard banner and your question's ready to go. What's nice about that too is people jump on and off live streams. So they may pop on and just be able to read what they should be, telling you in the comments. Your question is like, do you have a question about new YouTube features? Post it in the comments. You leave that up for 10 minutes. Questions are being attracted, even though you have to keep repeating yourself. And then to that end, one of the other things I love is that because of the power of StreamYard, I'm able to do solo shows, and I study the comments through my dashboard. And what I tell people to do is put 4 question marks before and after their question, so it really stands out as a question. And I use the star feature. And the star feature is nice because maybe you're answering a question or you're going through a whole segment and questions are coming in. You can just stack them up and then interchange between just the main comments tab. That's the aggregation, right, of Facebook and whatever other platforms, YouTube, you're streaming to. But you got your star tab, and then you can just methodically go through those, put those up on screen. I just did that this morning in one of our YouTube groups. And so amazing, absolutely engaging your audience with comments, but also even pre-planning questions and be able to throw those up on screen. We will also do that during a countdown. So when we're doing like a live web class, we have a 10-minute countdown going. We pop up a banner that says, where are you watching from? And it starts to stimulate conversation as the stream begins. And so using banners like that questions are a social media hack, period. Questions do great. Nothing else. Just a text question on your YouTube community tab, you're going to be stunned by how many people reply. Questions on Facebook, questions in Twitter. People want to answer questions. You want more engagement. Ask more questions in your live streams and in social media overall. All right, we have number 5 in just a second. We're also going to be talking about a new YouTube feature and breaking down or a new StreamYard feature, and breaking down some tactics related to that, as I can already imagine the 15 ways I'm excited to use it. But before we get to that new feature, one, if you haven't tried out StreamYard, you can go to streamwiththink.com. Again, highly recommended. Yes, StreamYard's been a sponsor, and happily so. Like, we've been so grateful to be able to work with StreamYard, because we only want to talk about products that we know, love, personally use, and would recommend to friends and family. And StreamYard is a staple in Think Media. It's just, we use it in so many ways, publicly and internally, for our different groups and communities. And the speed of implementation with which we can get great content out there, all of the above, the quality and ease of use, the ability to multi-stream, a lot of the tips we've been talking about in this very podcast, it's worth checking out. So head to streamwiththink.com, and you could also check out that link in the show notes. But number 5 is be consistent. What have you learned about not just going live once, not just trying a stream one time and then being like, it didn't work, but the necessity of consistency? What have you learned about that, Geige?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that personally I've learned a ton myself. It's something that I've observed from other users, the importance of consistency. But there's that saying that I really like. I think it goes something like, "Oh, it only took me 5 years to be an overnight success." I think that's true to the maximum when it comes to live streaming and anything worthwhile. Anything worthwhile is going to take time to get results. So, for example, in my personal experience, I think we're almost at episode 200 of our town hall for StreamYard, which is our own live stream that we do to engage with our community and answer questions about the product and get feedback. And when that started out, obviously, there was probably, I think we had 3 or 4 people watching. That was probably my mom and a friend and maybe one other person. And now today, StreamYard as a product has millions of people using it, and that town hall has several hundred people watching it every single week that are super fans. They're some of the greatest people ever that really help us get the word out about StreamYard. And if we would have done our first couple live streams or just looked at short-term results over the first couple of months of like, hey, we only grew from 5 people to 15 people watching, we would have given up, and we wouldn't be having the good results we have today. So I think streaming and content creation, anything, is an iterative process, and you can't learn and you can't get better if you don't actually do it, and you don't actually do it consistently. As I think you'll probably hear from any high level or any successful creator, I think would have similar advice on the subject, that you have to keep going, be consistent in order to get results.
That's amazing. My friend David Shands says consistency is the only cheat code. And I couldn't agree more. Consistency is crucial. And when you start live streaming, listen, friends, are you going to mess up on your live stream? Yep. Are you going to start and want to deliver a great opening and stumble over your words? Absolutely. Are you going to accidentally, press the wrong button or sometimes maybe have technical difficulties? Of course. It's all a learning curve. And the cool thing, though, is that as you stay consistent, one, viewers have grace, and two, at the beginning, like you said, it's just your mom and like two friends. So it takes time to build momentum anyways. But what gets really interesting and by the way, congratulations on the 200th town hall. That's consistency. I mean, 200 different live streams. And I want some practical advice as we get ready to talk about this next feature is just this commitment to a weekly live show. I think that one thing that can be so life-changing is a commitment to a weekly live show. I think what makes people afraid too is they're like, do I have to do this forever? The truth is, listen, if you fall off a little bit or you go into a season where you don't do it, it's not as big a deal as you think. I think what's more powerful is that for the majority of time or for a marathon run, you do it. And I remember during the beginning of C19 and in the middle of around March 2020, our reaction to people kind of being in fear and panic and shutting down and not sharing what's going to happen and all my travel getting canceled was to start a show. And I started a show also because I knew the tool I had was that this was going to be easy. I could do this consistently. This was the simple workflow, making sure I set it up in a simple way, simple promise. I started the Coffee with Cannell show. Shortly thereafter, Heather Torres started the YouTube Made Simple show. And I got a confession to make, though, Geige, is I have not done a Coffee with Cannell recently. I probably haven't done it in a couple of weeks. It's still a show. I still come back to it, but I probably went on a 100-episode run, and it's still a show that I can pop back into. And I've been traveling. I'm also got a 42-day-old boy at the time of recording and a 2-year-old. So we're fine. Like, Think Media is okay. And there's probably some demand and hopefully some hunger for the show. But the cool thing is I can get back to it. I could pick it back up. I think it's much more about progress, not perfection. But the commitment was start a show, just like you did. Streamyard Town Hall. You started a show. You hit episode 200. Question for you. Have you ever missed a week?
We actually haven't ever missed a week. One of us, so there's been weeks where I couldn't make it or Dan couldn't make it, but the show has always gone live. But I totally agree with you that you shouldn't be discouraged if you can't make a particular episode. It was just something that we decided, like, that if we're going to tell people to be consistent, we're going to live it. And that's why we never missed a show, but you shouldn't be discouraged if you happen to.
The show must go on. And that's the second hack, is if you have a co-host and you have somebody else, then if you can't make it, they can make it. But respect, that means the week between Christmas and New Year's, you do the show.
Oh yeah.
That means come hell or high water, you are doing the town hall. Massive respect. So whether you're absolutely, no matter what, disciplined to take it from episode 200 to 2000 of the StreamYard Town Hall show, or you just, again, progress over perfection, the advice today, especially with these 5 tips, is start your show and start going live. But we got a lot more to cover because, Geige, not only is StreamYard the easiest platform to live stream, but there's a brand new feature called Perfect Recordings coming soon. Explain what this is and why it matters.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited about Perfect Recordings because, like I mentioned at the beginning, the original goal for Dan and I was to be the easiest way to create professional live streams. But over the last couple of years, we've seen more and more folks using StreamYard, not just to do live streams, but to do recordings in general, where they'll hit that record only option just to create a podcast or some kind of recording. And StreamYard is a good solution for that, but it's not the perfect solution until now with this Perfect Recordings feature. And part of the reason why we're so excited about it is part of our goal was to make live streaming as accessible as possible. But there's only so far we can go because folks are still at the mercy of their internet connection, right? Like, if you live in the country or if you have a slow speed connection and you don't really have access to upgrade that connection, you're kind of limited in your ability to live stream. So the really cool thing about Perfect Recordings is even if you have a bad connection, no matter where you live on any connection in the world, you should still be able to create very high quality recordings. And the reason why that's possible is because while the quote unquote live stream is going on, you don't actually have to be live. We're going to be recording another copy of that directly on your computer, which means you're not at the mercy of the internet connection. Even if you're having a conversation in your podcast and the person looks super, super blurry, or they sound like a bit of a robot because the connection is bad, there's going to be a perfect copy happening in the background that's going to be uploading and that you're going to be able to have access to. So even if the live recording wasn't great, you're going to be able to repurpose that content and make something that looks truly professional, like you actually flew them out into your studio to do that podcast. So I'm really excited about the use cases that it will hopefully unlock.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm very excited about this feature. For one, is because of the opportunity for repurposing content. Speaking of the Coffee with Candle show, as soon as you shared this feature with me, I was about to fall out of my chair, because I love the ease of use and the speed of use of StreamYard. It goes live on YouTube. So if you're listening to this picture, and if you've ever seen an episode, I'm full screen. I put up some banners. I play my intro. Eventually, I maybe share a few slides. I put some questions on screen, whatever. And that all is one long file on YouTube. But one of the things we've been doing lately at Think Media is repurposing a lot of our content, especially for vertical video and for other YouTube videos. So I might go do a 90-minute Coffee with Candle, but there's moments in it that is a good 5 minutes that's worth chopping out, editing up a little bit better. There's a 15-minute segment that we could use in another way. Or there's the opportunity of tapping into YouTube Shorts, TikToks, Reels, Facebook Reels, and vertical video. And so having a perfect recording is a game changer, because of course StreamYard's bitrate even depends on people's internet connections and different things like that. So you've got this perfect recording that you could Dropbox to someone, but you also said you're making it easy to even share that file, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So depending on the quality of the internet connection of the person you're interviewing, or your own connection, we're going to be uploading that perfect recording in the background. So if you have a great connection, you're going to have that live stream going on, or that live real-time conversation. But by the end of it, that recording is going to be already good to go. There's nothing to upload or download, because that was happening in the background. But it does also take into account if someone is one of those people that's blurry, or maybe they're sounding slightly robotic. That's going to be happening at a much slower pace, or maybe just waiting until the stream is actually over for that upload to happen, to make sure that that we don't degrade the quality of what's happening real time. But yeah, after it's over, if you do a show with 3 or 4 folks, that'll all be stored in the cloud right on StreamYard. You'll have access to those perfect individual video and audio tracks, and sharing them out is as simple as sharing a link to other participants.
Beautiful. So it really bypasses Dropbox or Google Drive. You've got those files there. You could do a live stream, but then you have those for repurposing later, or a re-edit later, or you could just purely use it for the perfect recording feature and then edit that together however you would like later. So it's a very exciting feature, and I think it just further solidifies the market dominance of StreamYard, because it's like a multi-tool. It's a Swiss Army knife of live streaming, and now really podcast recording, video podcast recording. And so super excited and pumped about that. If you go to streamwiththink.com and you haven't already jumped into try StreamYard, you got to try it. I mean, you could get a 14-day trial there, and highly recommend you dive in. And again, I would say this: if you're serious about live streaming, you're serious about building your business in the creator economy, and you're serious about now, podcasting and video podcasting, which is one of the number one strategies we teach. Omar has a whole series on it. We think everybody should have a video podcast at some point in their journey. YouTube, as a side note, if you go to youtube.com/podcast, they hired an executive for podcasts. A 65-page document was leaked about their plans for podcasting. And so getting positioned now to be thinking about having a video podcast, keyword, by having, and tapping into a tool like Perfect Recordings and StreamYard is a big deal. And thinking about how you could ultimately use that feature and start getting ready now to create world-class video podcasts. Geige, I appreciate you. I appreciate your vision for creating a tool that is so thoughtful for creators, that you listen to what creators want. And I'm just grateful for how intuitive and forward thinking that StreamYard is, because we not only love it, but I also love that we don't feel stuck in yesterday, but that you guys continue to make updates. You continue to bring world-class features to just stay on the cutting edge of the actual things that creators need. So I appreciate you. Any final call to actions? Where should people follow you? How can they find the town hall? Any other things they need to know about?
Absolutely. And thanks so much for having me on. The easiest place is just StreamYard.com. You'll be able to find everything on StreamYard.com. And thanks to you as well. One of the biggest things that gives people hangups is actually going live and feeling confidence about going live. And companies like Think Media and your channels really help facilitate that. So thanks to you as well.
Appreciate you. Thanks again.